It is interesting, isn't it, that Rishi Sunak, who's coming out with so much rubbish at the moment, should actually occasionally say something true and hard-hitting. So in his LBC interview this morning, he said that constituents have a right to be properly represented and to have an MP that represents them wherever they are. And the former Culture Secretary, Nadine Dorries, is clearly not doing that. And it's just making sure your MP is engaging with you, representing you, whether that's speaking in Parliament or being present in their constituencies, doing surgeries, answering your letters. That's the job of an MP, of all MPs, and that should be held as the standard. He was asked if he meant Nadine Dorries was failing her constituents, and he said, well, at the moment people aren't being properly represented. That's probably about as far as he can go, but that's pretty strident. She, meanwhile, is whinging about the fact that sinister forces denied her a seat in the House of Lords. Well, judging by her behaviour in the last year, the fact that she, I think, has not appeared in the House of Commons, has voted a handful of times in the last year, has spent most of her energies on Talk TV. Judging by that, does she deserve to be in the House of Lords? Is she a paragon of constitutional propriety and service? No. She's emerged as little more than a garrulous gutter snipe. And is she worthwhile on TV? Yes, if you want to laugh at something. But I'm shocked by her behaviour, and I don't particularly like the way she's behaved. She started with so much opportunity as somebody who had her foot in the door of the arts, and she was suddenly there in the DCMS, and she couldn't be bothered to answer letters. She's demonstrated absolutely that she can't be bothered to answer letters, and she can't be bothered to do her job. She claims her office continues to function as normal, and that she will, of course, continue to serve her constituents. But the evidence is not there to be seen, and her constituents are screaming for proper attention and proper representation. People in mid-Bedfordshire feel completely taken for granted by Nadine Dorries. Families are facing soaring bills and are finding it impossible to get a GP appointment, while this government is wrapped up in sleaze and the Conservative MP, Nadine Dorries, is nowhere to be seen. That's what I think that's the Liberal Democrat Deputy Leader Daisy Cooper said. When your own Prime Minister says you aren't doing a good job properly, really it is time to go. She had a majority of 24,000 in the 2019 election, and both Labour and Liberal Democrats are targeting her seat. But we don't know when that by-election is going to take place. If we knew, I think maybe a few independents should target the seat as well and create a real fuss. But the Flitwick Town Council, there's a councillor there also standing against her, and the councillors have noticed that she hasn't maintained a constituency office for a considerable time. People are sick of being taken for granted. Emma Holland-Lindsay is planning to stand for the Lib Dems, and Festus Akinbusoye is standing for the Conservatives. But I know that there will be some independents standing for that seat as well. So in the meantime, Nadine Dorries apparently is writing a book called The Plot, The Political Assassination of Boris Johnson. I don't know whether she actually does the writing. I've noticed something very odd, that the things she puts in Twitter seem to be written by a different person to the stuff that she penned in her Nadine of the Back Streets, or whatever the names of her various books in her literary oeuvre are the person of the 4 streets, the person of the 3 streets, the women of the back streets, and so on. And I've read all of her books, by the way. I read all her books on the day I was due to go and have cancer surgery. I contacted Amazon. I got all her books delivered, and I took them into the hospital with me, and I ploughed through all that stuff. So I feel I'm in a position to say with some authority that the style in her books is very different to the style on her Twitter pages. One of them, I think, is not written by her. I'd be very interested to know which one. But maybe she's got a good deal with Fiverr. Maybe she's got maybe she's employing somebody to do all her social media. She wouldn't be the first person to do that, but it's definitely not the same voice. And equally, I find some of her interviews are terribly incoherent. We can't judge very much by what she says on television, except that the time she's got reading the auto cue has got slower and slower, has got briefer and briefer. And so even Talk TV don't seem to trust her to read the auto cue for more than a few sentences at a time. But she was loquacious. She was loquacious with Piers Morgan about her frustration not being put into the House of Lords when she's speaking about herself. I suppose she's got plenty to say.